It was not in my nature, of course, to keep any anger against him, and I knew what a condescension it was for him to visit us. And it is a very grievous thing, which touches small landowners, to see an ancient family day by day decaying; and when we heard that Ley Barton itself, and all the manor of Linton, were under a heavy mortgage debt to John Lovering of Ware Gifford, there was not much, in our little way, that we would not gladly do or suffer for the benefit of De Whichehalse. Meanwhile the work of the farm was toward, and every day gave us more ado to dispose of what itself was doing. For after the long dry skeltering wind of March and part of April, there had been a fortnight of soft wet; and when the sun came forth again, hill and valley, wood and meadow, could not make enough of him. Many a spring have I seen since then, but never yet two springs alike, and never one so beautiful. Or was it that my love came forth, and touched the world with beauty? The spring was in our valley now, creeping first for shelter shyly in the pause of the blustering wind. There the lambs came bleating to her, and the orchis lifted up, and the thin dead leaves of clover lay for the new ones to spring through. There the stiffest things that sleep, the stubby oak and the sapland beech, dropped their brown defiance to her, and prepared for a soft reply. While her over eager children, who had started forth to meet her through the frost and shower of sleet, catkined hazel, gold glove withy, youthful elder, and old woodbine, with all the tribe of good hedge climbers, who must hasten while haste they may, was there one of them that did not claim the merit of coming first? There she stayed and held her revel; as soon as the fear of frost was gone, all the air was a fount of freshness, and the earth of gladness, and the laughing waters prattled of the kindness of the sun. But all this made it much harder for us, plying the hoe and rake, to keep the fields with room upon them for the corn to tiller. The winter wheat was well enough, being sturdy and strong sided; but the spring wheat and the barley and the oats were overrun by ill weeds growing faster. Therefore, as the old saying is, "Farmer, that thy wife may thrive, let not burr and burdock wive; and if thou wouldest keep thy son, see that bine and gith have none." So we were compelled to go down the field and up it, striking in and out with care where the green blades hung together, so that each had space to move in and to spread its roots abroad. And I do assure you now, though you may not believe me, it was harder work to keep John Fry, Bill Dadds, and Jem Slocum all in a line and all moving nimbly to the tune of my own tool, than it was to set out in the morning alone and hoe half an acre by dinner time. For instead of keeping the good ash moving, they would forever be finding something to look at, or to speak of, or at any rate to stop with, blaming the shape of their tools perhaps, or talking about other people's affairs, or, what was most irksome of all to me, taking an advantage as married men, and whispering jokes of no excellence about my having or having not, or being ashamed of a sweetheart. And this went so far at last that I was forced to take two of them and knock their heads together, after which they worked with a better will. When we met together in the evening round the kitchen chimney place, after the men had had their supper and their heavy boots were gone, my mother and Eliza would do their very utmost to learn what I was thinking of. Not that we kept any fire now, after the crock was emptied, but that we loved to see the ashes cooling, and to be together. At these times Annie would never ask me any crafty questions, as Eliza did, but would sit with her hair untwined, and one hand underneath her chin, sometimes looking softly at me, as much as to say that she knew it all, and I was no worse off than she. But strange to say, my mother dreamed not, even for an instant, that it was possible for Annie to be thinking of such a thing. She was so very good and quiet, and careful of the linen, and clever about the cookery and fowls and bacon curing, that people used to laugh and say she would never look at a bachelor until her mother ordered her. But I, perhaps from my own condition and the sense of what it was, felt no certainty about this, and even had another opinion, as was said before. Often I was much inclined to speak to her about it, and put her on her guard against the approaches of Tom Faggus. But I could not find how to begin, and feared to make a breach between us, knowing that if her mind was set, no words of mine would alter it, although they needs must grieve her deeply. Moreover, I felt that, in this case, a certain homely Devonshire proverb would come home to me, that one, I mean, which records that the crock was calling the kettle smutty. Not of course that I compared my innocent maid to a highwayman, but that Annie might think her worse, and would be too apt to do so, if indeed she loved Tom Faggus. And our cousin Tom, by this time, was living a quiet and godly life, having retired almost from the trade, except when he needed excitement, or came across public officers, and having won the esteem of all whose purses were in his power. Perhaps it is needless for me to say that all this time while my month was running, or rather crawling, for never month went so slow as that with me, neither weed, nor seed, nor cattle, nor my own mother's anxiety, nor any care for my sister, kept me from looking once every day, and even twice on a Sunday, for any sign of Lorna. For my heart was ever weary, in the budding valleys, and by the crystal waters, looking at the lambs in fold, or the heifers on the mill, labouring in trickled furrows, or among the beaded blades, halting fresh to see the sun lift over the golden vapoured ridge, or doffing hat from sweat of brow, to watch him sink in the low grey sea, be it as it would of day of work, or night or slumber, it was a weary heart I bore, and fear was on the brink of it. All the beauty of the spring went for happy men to think of. All the increase of the year was for other eyes to mark. Not a sign of any sunrise for me from my fount of life, not a breath to stir the dead leaves fallen on my heart's spring. End of chapter 22. Recording by Michelle Harris.